part 1 of this video, we're going to be going over how I painted all of the purple sections of armor on the entry grade Gundam mobile suit from Bandai. What happens when you let the internet decide what colors you're going to paint your next Gundam in? Well, you end up with an interesting color scheme involving purple, turquoise, and white. I chose specifically which ones I'm using, so in this case I'm using a slightly off-white, so I have somewhere to work it, because if it's pure white I can't highlight it, so this is just an off-white. The Mecha color turquoise just has amazing coverage, and this is just a straightforward violet color for the purple. So I've taken the liberty of already base coating everything with the airbrush, just because it's pretty straightforward. So it's basically just a solid coating of whatever one of those colors that part's going to end up being, and in some cases just a little bit of shading in some of the areas here, just a little bit darkening it up. Nothing fancy. Most of the work is being done with a brush here. I've already started a little bit, just doing a little bit of experimenting, which gave me this foot. I determined what parts are going to be what colors, obviously, already. Yeah, now I'm just going to walk through the process I'm using to do the rest of the paint job here. So for the purple, obviously I'm going to use, this is my neutral color. This is going to be my highlight color here. I don't use a lot of Citadel paints, but this is a handy purple for this. And then I've got black leather here, which is going to be my shade for the purple. So these are sort of my 3 tones that I will use for the purple. And then to add the extra chipping, I'm going to use black metal, which is a dark silver. One of the challenges with doing chipping effects on the purple is because it's so dark, getting something that's going to contrast well and be visible is difficult, because usually if I'm using a brighter color, I'll use like a rusty red or something to chip it. But if I use a dark red on the purple, it'll be almost invisible. It's not going to show up. So using a metallic will help give it a little bit of reflection to it. I am going to matte coat it, so I'm accepting that the metallic is going to end up getting muted in color, but that's okay. I can highlight it again with a lighter silver to really give it a little bit more pop. I'm going to take a little bit of this color, the light purple. I'm just putting it onto an old card here. I use old gift cards as sort of temporary palettes for dry brushing and stuff. I have a wet palette for some stuff, but for dry brushing I just use like a little mini card here. I'm taking a sponge here. This is just open packaging sponge here. I just rip off a little piece to get a random shape with it, and I'm just going to dab it in there. Just kind of get it so it can be similar to dry brushing. Get it dry, and I'm just going to use that to add some light texturing here. I'm going to pay special attention to edges, because the edges will get more damaged. This is basically just doing like light chipping. It's like damage to the paint that didn't quite penetrate through it entirely. Just add some texture to it. It makes it more interesting. And it also serves as a bit of an edge highlight as well, because I'm focusing primarily on edges, because those will get the most wear and tear. So they get a little bit of chipping. One of the things I set out with this build was I didn't really want to use any masking tape if I could help it, so far I haven't. And I'm going to try not to as I progress with it. I'm just going to hand paint any of the detailing. When I cleaned up these parts too, I didn't use any fancy tools at all. There's no putty used at all, so the sear One thing I like about doing chipping this way is that it's pretty quick compared to the hairspray method, for example, which can be very time consuming. And I do this before I do any detailing because then I don't have to worry about being tidy, and it's easy to just paint over this as I do any detailing. So the chipping has to come first because it is the messiest. With the skirts, so just a little bit more focused towards the bottom and the insides where we start rubbing against other armor plates. And the knee pads I figured get a fair bit of use and damage because they're probably getting kneeled on. We definitely know that the RX-78 kneels and lies down in the original series. Or just falls sometimes as well. And the head should have the least chipping because it's the furthest from the ground. I'm just going to put a little bit on the lower edges here to help give them a little bit of definition. And, maybe it's rubbing against its collar and stuff. So now we've got all of the base chipping down on all of the purple pieces. We're going to just add a little bit more shading and highlighting to them as needed, just to give a little bit more definition, and start adding some scratches as well. So I've just already laid out my different paints on my palette here. So I've got the purple that I was already using there for the chipping. I've got a dark purple, which is this one here. Black leather, so that's there, which is just a dark purple for shading. I've got a little bit of black if I really need to get super dark in spots. And then I'm using this off-white, which is the off-white I'm using for the rest of it, if I need to add to highlight a little bit brighter on the light purple to get a little bit more of an extreme highlight. So to start off, I'm just going to take a bit of that purple that we already been using, and start applying it on a few of the corners and edges just to bring them up a little bit brighter. Because the chipping doesn't always get it quite as bright as I want it. And I can also then add metallics on top of it if I want to really brighten it up, which I will be doing in a lot of the corners and edges, especially on the feet. Pick out some of the existing contours on the kit already, just to help give them a little bit of pop. But you only want to do it in select spots, otherwise you end up sort of getting a Tron look, where all of your edges have this weird highlight, and it doesn't look so great, so you have to be very selective. So doing it on corners typically is a safe spot, particularly upper edges where the light will hit more. And then with a fine tipped brush, let's see how this one works. We're going to start adding some scratches in. And those are pretty much just taking a really fine brush and doing some straight lines kind of randomly, not pushing too hard. It's fine if they're not consistent. These are how we get our scratches. But the direction, you can mix it up. You normally want most of them sort of matching your directions of travel, so front to back, because that's the direction a lot of the wear will happen, but there's no hard rule to it. A little bit of all different directions is good, just adds more variety to it. And don't worry about the line being super solid. If it breaks up in spots, it actually just adds to the effect. And you can build it into some of the marks that you made from the chipping already, especially if you had ones that were a little bit on the big side. You can kind of grow these into those. And the feet get the most work because feet obviously take the most damage. So we're going to mix in a little bit of that off-white to get an even brighter tone. And we're going to go back over some of those corners we already did, but we're not going to do quite as far. So we're just going to go a little bit right on the edges. But it's important that you let what was already there extend beyond what we're adding in. And then we can use this to add some more scratches with the lighter shade now. They don't have to go on top of the existing one, just they're slightly lighter because they're slightly deeper. And there we go. We got our nice scratched up purple shoe part here. I'm going to add just a little bit of black right in there to increase that contrast, really make it pop a bit, blend it out. It's just a very thin line. And I'm going to take a little bit of this dark purple and just bring it around here just to increase the contrast on this raised part. Help separate it a little bit better from the surrounding area, and add just a tiny bit of black there too. There we go, pretty good. And then I'm going to add some silver on to some of the raised spots here again. So the way I sort of see it is these edges here, as they're getting lighter, it's deeper and deeper damage to them. So at some point you're going to break right through the paint and go to the metal, so then we just add a tiny bit sort of right on the corner. I've sped up the last portion of the video here detailing how the purple was painted, just so you're not waiting and watching it for the next 45 minutes. And I've pretty much cut out the audio so you can just listen to the background music as you watch it. It's pretty much just repeating the processes that we've already gone over with the earlier spots on the foot and on the ankle and the lower leg, and continuing with that for the purple here for the rest of the mobile suit.